Hi, I'm Joshua Herbison with IdeaPro, and today we got a question from Mark from Colorado. Mark asks, I get really frustrated with uploading files to my website while building it. Is there an easy way to build my website using WordPress on my Mac other than to my host? If so, how do I do that? Well, Mark, that's a great question. And yes, there is a very easy way. Basically, you can install an Apache Server and install WordPress on your Mac, and you can build the complete website. Now, there's a few differences on the folder file structure and stuff like that, which we can get into that at a later video. But today we're going to set up the Apache Server on the Mac and install WordPress and show you how to get all that started. And then we can do a future video if we need to go into more detail about how to build the themes and plugins and configure WordPress and stuff like that. So let's get started. So if we go to our browser and we go to Google and type in Apache Server for Mac, there's a couple of different softwares that you can use. There's XAMPP, and I used to use this on my Mac for a local server. When I upgraded to El Capitan, it actually crashed. Not El Capitan, but the actual XAMPP crashed. I could start the app and close the app, but changing configuration, I couldn't use it. It did run and worked, but I always need to change some kind of configuration on it for everything that I do, and I just wasn't able to use it anymore, so I uninstalled it. There's another one that I actually use for Windows and Mac, and it's XAMPP. And like I said, it's available for Windows, Linux, and Mac. So we'll just download the Mac version, save the file to our downloads folder. I'm not going to save it because I've already got it actually installed on my computer. Go to your downloads, install the application. Surely you know how to do that. It's very simple to install. It's just like any other app. And then once you have it installed, you need to navigate to your applications folder on Finder. So you go to your applications folder and then find the XAMPP folder. Open it, and there's actually a manager-osx.app file in there. And you can drag that to your menu bar, whether it's on the left or bottom, whichever one. Whoops. And don't want to do that. And then open that app. And when you open it the first time, it'll actually ask you for your login credentials to your computer. It does that because you're actually installing, running an Apache server on there, and they want you to know that there's changes made to your computer and know that there's some software running on it. So open that and get it in, running, and it will look like this once it's running. And this is just the welcome page that gives you the links to their Facebook and Twitter, gives you some links to their application, to their website, and stuff like that. We're going to click on Manage Servers. They've got 3 different servers that are here. You've got a database server, an FTP server, and an Apache server. The 2 main ones that we need right now are the database server and the Apache server. The FTP server we don't need because we're not going to have anybody FTPing files into our local machine. If you want to set that up, we can do that in a later video. We're not going to do that today though. So we want to start the Apache web server and the MySQL database server. Now you can start both of these at the same time. The Apache server doesn't have to be running before the database server starts up. They can both start up simultaneously. So once these are running, and we have them running now, you can navigate back to your browser and type in localhost, and it takes you to localhost/dashboard, which is the XAMPP website. Now this gives you a couple different links up here. It's got a PHP Info link if you've ever used PHP Info on a host. Basically this tells you all the configurations of PHP. It's a very handy file. It tells you all the modules that are installed, and so if you need to look and see if something's installed like curl, which I use a lot, it'll all be in here. So we don't need that right now. And then this brings you to your PHP MyAdmin, which is the administration of your database your databases. I have a few already installed. If this is the first time you've installed it, basically you should have the information schema, the performance schema, PHP MyAdmin, and that should be it. So now we need to download WordPress. So we're just going to go to wordpress.org, download the current version, which is 4.4.1. So we're going to download that, save it to our downloads directory, and then we're going to open it here. And it's automatically going to unzip it for us. If it didn't, then you can unzip it now. We're going to go into that WordPress directory, and this is all the WordPress files. If you've never installed WordPress, you're going to learn really quick today. It's super easy. I use GoDaddy for a lot of the WordPress sites that I use, just because it's much easier. My clients like GoDaddy, and GoDaddy has an install button for their WordPress, so that makes it super easy. But WordPress is pretty easy to install anyway. So now that we have WordPress downloaded, we need to create a new website on our local machine. So we're going to navigate back to the applications folder, back to the XAMPP folder, and then into htdocs. Now this is where all websites are stored for your local machine. And all these different directories are actually websites that I have installed on my local machine, and we're going to create a new one now. So we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call it Apache Setup. And that's basically how easy it is to create a new website, or a website directory, I should say, on your Apache Setup. So now if we go back to our browser and go to localhost/Apache Setup. Now we have a blank website. If you're familiar with this, this is the index of an Apache website when you don't have any files installed on it. So now we have that set up. We're going to go back to our downloads where we have WordPress downloaded. We're going to go into the actual WordPress folder. So we're going to highlight all these files. We're going to copy them. Then we're going to go over here to our htdocs Apache Setup folder, and we're going to paste the 19 items here, which is all the WordPress files. So now if we go back to our browser and refresh this page, now it's going to give us the WordPress setup, and we're going to hit Let's Go. So now it's going to ask us for the database name, the username, the password, and where it's actually going to be hosted. Majority of the time you're going to use localhost, even if it's on a GoDaddy host or Bluehost or a private server you have. The majority of the time it's localhost. Table prefix, we're going to leave it WordPress, or the WordPress default, which is WP_. You can change this if you want. Later on I'm going to do a couple of videos on how to build plugins. Building plugins correctly using the WordPress prefix is important. If someone changes this and you don't build the plugin correctly, the plugin won't work. So we're not going to get into that, probably more than I should have said already, but so right now it's going to ask us for the WordPress database name. We haven't created that yet, but we're going to go back to PHP MyAdmin. We're going to click New, and we're going to create Apache Setup, because this is what I'm calling it. You can name that database anything you want. I would name it something that corresponds to your website so that it's easy to find it once you have multiple databases set up over here. And we're not going to worry about the type of database and all that. We're just going to leave it like it is and hit create. So now that we have the database set up, Apache Setup, we're going to go back to we're going to close that page. We're going to go back to our WordPress setup, and the database name, which we just set up, was Apache Setup. The username for XAMPP, when you install it, the default is always root. You can go to PHP MyAdmin, click on this here, which takes you back to the default page. You can go to user accounts, and you can change or add users here. Root, you can add a new user if you want to. That's good if you're going to have someone FTPing files in or give them access to do stuff, it's good to set up a user for them. That way you can disable it if you need to. Setting up a password for root, I don't recommend it. If you're going to have people FTPing into or logging into your local machine, then definitely you want to set a password for root. But we're not going to do that because we're just doing this for our own local machine. So for password, we're going to take that out and leave it blank. And then hit submit. And it's going to say, sorry, but I can't write the wp-config.php file. You can create the php file manually and paste the following text into it. The reason why it's doing this is because on a Mac, you have to set up the permissions on the folder. That's a little bit more than I want to get into today. It's really not that hard, but it's much easier just to create the wp-config file. So we're going to copy this, and then we're going to go into our website software, which I use Dreamweaver. You can use whatever software that you're familiar with or you like. I've been using Dreamweaver for years and years, so it's what I'm familiar with and it's what I like. So in Dreamweaver, I'm going to create a new site, and I'm going to call that new site Apache Setup. But what I like to do whenever I name a site with Dreamweaver is I like to name it based on the local machine that I'm on. So right now I'm on my local machine. It's a Mac. I also have a Windows server. I have external servers. So I always like to put in server name dot whatever it is, because sometimes I might build a site on multiple servers for different testing if I have different versions of PHP installed or something like that. So what I like to do is I like to say local dot, and then whether it's a Mac or a Windows, or if I have 3 or 4 servers, I might say Windows Server 2. But this is on my Mac, so I'm going to say local.mac.apache setup, because this is what I'm calling it. And then I need to navigate to the local folder. So in the applications, go down to XAMPP, htdocs, Apache Setup. So now we're in the root directory of Apache Setup, and we're going to hit choose. So that's all we need to do to set up Dreamweaver. We're not doing it to an external server, so we don't have to worry about setting up servers. Every time you save a file with it set up like this, it automatically saves it to your folder. So when you go back to your browser and refresh, it's updated. So we're going to hit save, and this is going to bring in all the files to Dreamweaver. It's going to scan all the files, and then it's going to give us the list here of the local files. Now what it's telling us back here on this page is it couldn't create the wp-config.php file manually. So we have to create that file ourselves. And if you go to your Apache Setup folder here, go back to the htdocs folder, you can definitely go in, and I believe it's in Get Info in here, and then go down here to permissions, and you can change the permissions. But to me, it's just not worth it. So we want to create this wp-config file. So we're going to go back to Dreamweaver, and we're going to create a new file. It's a PHP file, and we're going to take all this out, and we're going to paste in basically what WordPress has given us here. We've copied this, and we're going to paste it into here. If you look, it tells us the database name is Apache Setup, user is root, the database is password, and then localhost. So now we're just going to save this as wp-config and hit save, and then go back to our browser and hit run the install. Now if you didn't do that correctly, this page won't come up. The welcome page won't come up. It'll actually tell you there was an error. You can go back and you can try it again, make sure you may have done something wrong. So make sure you get that right. Then from here we can do we can call it, give it our name. So we're going to call it Apache Setup, And we're going to create a username of admin. I don't recommend this on WordPress usually, but it's for my local host, so it's not that big a deal. I'm going to use admin, and then we're going to set up a simple password: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're not having anybody log in, so it's not that big a deal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then since we used a weak password, we got to confirm the weak password. And then your email. You can set up an email here, or you don't have to. It doesn't matter because it's on your local machine. I'm going to use my ideapro.us email here. And then discourage search engines. It doesn't matter because search engines aren't going to be crawling your local machine anyway. So install WordPress. If everything went good, it'll tell you everything's good. If not, it'll give you an error. It says WordPress database error. Got error. This version of PCRE is compiled without UTF support at offset 0 from, delete from WP options where options name, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into this error right now. It's really not that big a deal. We can, if someone has an issue with their WordPress, then we can go into that later on. So now we're going to log in. It's going to take us to the WordPress login, and we're going to say admin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're into our WordPress dashboard. So basically that's how easy it is to set up WordPress on a local machine. It's going to give us the default theme here, appearance. So now if we go to localhost / Apache setup, now it's going to give us the default WordPress theme. So that's how easy it is to set up WordPress on your local machine. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. I'll do future videos for questions that you have. I promised in 2016 I'd start doing videos instead of just replying to all your emails. So send questions to questions@ideapro.us, and we'll see you next time.